wide open spaces, pristine natural beauty, rustic living, plenty of time to yourself or to spend with family and friends. A dude ranch is one of the few places left in our modern, fast-paced world where you can still enjoy all these simple pleasures. In many ways, it's a place where time has stood still since the turn of the century. Dude families have been coming back to ranches for generations to enjoy the great outdoors, horseback riding, fishing, hiking. They've also come to mingle with the locals and get to know their culture. Many people who are fascinated by cowboy legends want to experience the Western way of life firsthand. When dudes first arrive on a ranch, they often expect to find the stereotypical rugged cowboys they've seen on the big screen.
You know, and they think the Roy Rogers ride off into the sunset, kiss the horse, leave the girl. You know, I think everybody has a really preconceived notion of what cowboys and the Wranglers are supposed to be like.
Dudes learn that a Wrangler is a particular brand of cowboy or cowgirl, groomed to socialize with them and to take them on horseback rides. When dudes and Wranglers get to know one another, it's a cultural experience for everyone. The origins of dude ranching can be traced back to the mid-1800s, when wealthy adventurers from the East Coast and abroad paid Westerners large sums to accommodate them and guide them on hunting trips. These travelers were some of the first outsiders who paid locals to introduce them to the West. One such traveler was Scotsman William Drummond Stewart, who hired the painter Alfred Jacob Miller to document his adventures. Stewart could be considered one of the very first dudes. The next wave of visitors came in the late 1800s. Friends of English and American cattle ranchers came to experience Western life to its fullest by working on ranches in exchange for riding and hunting privileges. After enduring the long trek by train and horseback to get to a ranch, dudes would usually stay for at least a month. Unlike tourists who visited national parks and stayed in lodges and resorts, dudes wanted to get their hands dirty. They wanted to get a taste of what day-to-day life on a working ranch was like.
When the dudes came here, they wanted to get a rope, and they wanted to get on a horse, and they wanted to help participate with the cattle in the working part of the ranch.
Running cattle and hunting elk, bear, and other animals were the main attractions. Some dudes loved the outdoor life so much they ended up starting ranches of their own. One such dude was Theodore Roosevelt, who started a cattle ranch in Medora, North Dakota. His books about the pleasures and benefits of Western living lured many people to the West.
Theodore Roosevelt's writings in the late 19th and early 20th century is just full of references to the rigors that await a person out on a ranch and how they can take a very weak, ill person and turn him or her into a sturdy, stable, strong individual.
Roosevelt was one of the first writers to paint the cowboy in a positive light.
We go from the rough hooligan to a popular cultural hero that people are attracted to. They want to emulate in their own way. He's honest, he's smart, he's tough, he protects women.
The cowboy mystique, enhanced by Western films, as well as the promise of revitalized health, attracted a growing number of visitors in the early 20th century, an influx that reached its peak in the 1920s. Ranchers found that entertaining more and more friends got to be expensive, and many of them started requiring payment. Eventually, they made a side business out of hunting, horseback riding, and pack trips into the wilderness. The supplemental income turned out to be vital during hard economic times.
Many of these ranchers who had been struggling along trying to make a living on livestock realized that they could do very well by bringing visitors in, and this would supplement their income remarkably in the busy summer months.
Dudes were primarily wealthy people who could afford the train ride and extended stay. There is some debate over how these guests first came to be called dudes. Some historians look to the Old English term, which meant a greenhorn, or a person who was very dressed up. Cowboys may have started calling guests dudes because of their inexperience, or because they wore fancy clothes with accessories such as hats and spurs. But most historians point to the common Western meaning of the word at the time. A dude was someone from another area who paid a guide or host for services. After entire dude families started visiting, variations of the word popped up. A dudine was a female dude, and a dudette designated either a child or a woman who moved out west to marry a cowboy. The dude business became so steady that many Westerners wanted to be a part of it. Hunting outfitters converted their operations into dude ranches, offering a more varied selection of outdoor activities. And many cattle ranches found entertaining dudes to be more profitable than raising cattle.
There are long winters here. It took 1.5 tons of hay per cow. Well, dudes went away and fed themselves all winter and came back as a cash crop in the summer. So more and more of the ranches took on dudes first as a supplemental means of income and then as the main means of income.
The first known ranch to devote its business exclusively to dudes was the Eaton Brothers Ranch in Wolf, Wyoming, founded in 1904. Howard Eaton became well known for his long pack trips into the nearby Bighorn Mountains and national parks. Guests couldn't ask for more. Horseback riding in pristine wide-open spaces, a chef, and even maid service.
They would have up to 200 people on these pack trips, and he would take them all through Glacier and all through Yellowstone. They'd have a base camp, and then they would ride out of that on a day's trip. The lone men had their row of teepees, the lone women their row, and the married people had to row down the middle to keep everyone separated.
At night, around the campfire, Howard Eaton and the other cowboys would entertain guests for hours with lively Western stories. Dudes were getting to know the culture of the West. The second oldest dude ranch in Wyoming, the H.F. Bar, started out as a cattle ranch in 1902. Frank Horton moved out west from Iowa to start the ranch after discovering he was colorblind and could not continue his studies to become a surgeon. In 1915, Horton converted his operation into a dude ranch because so many of his friends wanted to spend summers there with their families. Many of these friends designed their own cabins and even helped pay to have them built. These first dudes appreciated the unstructured environment they found on the ranch.
They got you there. They provided you with a horse and saddle, gave you the 3 meals, had your cabin cleaned, and the rest of the time you were on your own. You could do whatever you wanted. If you wanted to ride, you could, and if you didn't want to ride, if you just wanted to sit on the porch and read a book, well, you could. Stare at the creek and listen to the gurgling brook.
Some dudes loved the Western way of life so much that they decided to form partnerships with local cowboys to start dude ranches of their own. This mixture of Eastern and Western expertise proved to be ideal for the industry.
The dude would furnish 2 things: the money for the purchase and the contacts in the East to get more dudes. The cowboy furnished know-how. Know-how in terms of horses, know-how in terms of building your own cabins, built their own furniture, all of them.
By the mid-1920s, dude ranching was flourishing, and ranches had spread from core areas in Wyoming, Montana, and Colorado to regions throughout the West. Dude ranching had become a tourist industry leader in the Rocky Mountain West. During this period, the railroad industry played a key role in attracting people to dude ranches, advertising in newspapers and magazines throughout the country. Word of mouth, as well as books, films, and articles on the West, also brought in plenty of guests. Charles Belden's romantic photos of the Pitchfork Ranch in Wyoming appeared in such publications as the New York Times, Life magazine, and National Geographic, reaching an international audience and attracting guests from both the East Coast and abroad.
When they they came out and experienced life on a dude ranch, I think a lot of individuals saw that it was a remarkable, to them, a remarkable change from a very fast-paced, heavily scheduled life that they were leading in the cities to a place where it was quiet, where the schedules weren't as rigid, where one could think a little bit and relax, sort of think that maybe in the back of one's mind that you're living on the frontier, and that you're experiencing maybe the kind of environment that your great-grandparents might have had the opportunity to experience back before the Industrial Revolution caused everything to become so fast-paced and so out of control.
Dudes dreamed of running cattle side by side with the cowboys, so many ranchers purchased a token number of cattle to please the dudes. Some ranches even had their own rodeos. These rodeos, along with pack trips and campfire gatherings, gave Easterners and Westerners a chance to get to know one another's culture. The juxtaposition of cultures created an anything-goes atmosphere of freedom that everyone enjoyed, and the cowboys usually hammed it up a little.
When the families come out to the dude ranches, they get exactly what they want. The ranchers themselves have learned to play the part that the tourists want. You look at their clothes, photos of the 1920s. They're dressing that cowboy legend. They look just like a cowboy out of a Tom Mix film.
A good wrangler was a good cowboy, too. I mean, in order to get along with the dudes. And you had to be a good mixer, because you had all type of people, types that, had never been around horses or been out in the so-called wilderness in the back country.
During the 1930s, dude ranchers had to deal with some new hardships. The increasing affordability of the automobile was both a blessing and a curse for dude ranches. It opened up the West to the middle class, bringing in even more travelers. But families visited for shorter periods of time so they could move on to their next destination, and many new tourist industries cropped up in response to the new influx of travelers, creating more competition. The dude ranching industry also became divided over whether to support or oppose the creation and expansion of national parks. In the Jackson Hole area, for example, some ranchers supported Grand Teton National Park because they thought it would work to their economic advantage in the long run. The park would help maintain the dude lifestyle by preserving open land for horseback riding. But other ranchers resented the government buying up so much prime land. The Park Service bought out many ranches, giving each owner a lifetime lease that was not renewable. In some cases, where ranchers weren't cooperative, the Park Service even tried to condemn land. Ranchers near other national parks dealt with similar issues. Across the West, ranchers were pro-conservation. But the debate continued over how big a role, if any, the government should play in conserving land.
As time passed, there were more and more regulations passed about what could be done and what couldn't be done inside the confines of national parks. And many individuals complained very loudly about the increasing regulation of use of national park properties for purposes of pack trips and taking visitors out.
Dude ranching has weathered other bumps in the road over the years, yet has always remained a viable industry. Ranchers' efforts to keep their ranches as simple and rustic as they were in the early days, and to maintain a sense of family among their workers and guests, have kept dude families coming back for generations. Three of the oldest dude ranches, Eaton's, the HF Bar, and the Triangle X, are perfect examples of how the dude ranching tradition has endured. Dudes have the same opportunities for discovery and adventure as they did back in the early days. Horseback riding is still the main attraction. Dudes have various rides to choose from. They can go on a morning ride after breakfast or an evening sunset ride after dinner. At the HF Bar and Eaton's, more experienced riders can ride without a wrangler. Dudes who like to camp can ride into the mountains for an overnight pack trip. And at Triangle X, seasoned dudes can even help the wranglers with their work.
They're living in the outdoors, real outdoors. I mean, you know, they wrangle our dudes when they're capable or good riders. They're allowed to go out and wrangle the horses in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning to go down into the pasture to bring them up. It's usually at daylight. They'll see game all over the place and birds and the freedom of open spaces and the feeling of being absolutely free.
Children love to ride as much as their parents do. Some ranches have special rides just for kids, and even very young children can ride.
Kids are so excited by it, and they love to watch the guy wranglers out here roping and stuff. They get such a kick out of that. Their eyes just open up.
I really like the riding because there's a lot of trails, and there's no way you'll get all of them, but that's why you can come here again. It's nice.
A lot of what makes a family vacation good is if the kids like it. If the kids like it, then the parents like it. So the kids are having a good time.
Outside of scheduled morning and evening rides, dudes enjoy the freedom to structure their days however they please. And with miles of open space all around, there are plenty of outdoor activities to choose from.
The countryside is kind of your own, and you go out and pick and choose what you want to do. And there is so much in the way of the environment to see and be a part of.
On most ranches, fishing is one of the more popular activities. And if you've never fished before, there's usually a ranch hand available who can teach you. Hiking is another way to see the countryside.
This time of year, there's lots of wildflowers, and you get up there and you don't see any other people. You see cows and deer and sometimes some elk, and it's just really beautiful.
At the HF Bar, you can try your hand at skeet shooting with a ranch hand there to help you hone your skills. Or you can hang out by the pool, a favorite pastime on hot days. You may choose to spend some time on your cabin porch, reading a book or playing games with the family. Or you can check out the Western merchandise in the store. For parents who want time alone, most ranches have a babysitter to look after younger children.
They really like to stay because it's so pretty out here, and usually they come from big cities, and so this is something really different for them.
Whatever you decide to do during the day, late afternoon is a time to reconnect with family and friends before heading to the dining hall for dinner. Dinner time provides another opportunity to share the day's adventures. Family members can have a table to themselves or share one with another family or two. On especially warm evenings, there may be a barbecue picnic with outdoor seating. Simple home-style cooking is the pride of many ranches. After dinner, you can go for an evening ride or enjoy the charm of your cabin with its rustic, old-time Western style. If you're in the mood to socialize, the ranch house living room is another option. On some ranches, the kids or the entire family can go on a hayride. It's a chance to gather around a campfire, roast marshmallows, and gaze at the stars. The warm hospitality you find on a dude ranch is a rare commodity in today's world. It doesn't take long for a new dude to feel a part of a ranch's extended family of guests and ranch hands. Ranchers go out of their way to make you feel at home. At the HF Bar, fresh ice is delivered to your porch icebox every afternoon, and your housekeeper writes you a personal greeting note asking you to speak up if you have any special requests. Each ranch has its own ways to add a personal touch.
We have a cocktail party once a week just so we do get to meet all the people and mix with them, and some of my best friends are guests that have been here.
It's a family-run place, so they treat you as part of the family. And there's flowers in your cabins, and they try to remember you from year to year, and there's just a lot of special touches.
For many dudes, a ranch becomes their home away from home, and they request the same cabin, horse, and saddle each time they visit. And for families and friends who are spread out across the country, a dude ranch can be the perfect place to have a yearly reunion.
I come from an Air Force family, and we moved around all the time, and the one place that we had as a kind of grounding location was the ranch.
Most ranches have added some modern conveniences since the early days of dude ranching. Some have New York Times articles faxed in every day, or you may find a TV or VCR in the ranch living room. But these changes don't detract from the feeling that you're stepping back in time when you visit a dude ranch. It's a feeling that leaves a lasting impression.
The types of people and the types of employees and just the whole heart of the ranch has remained the same. The beauty has, of course, remained the same. And lots of tradition. It hasn't changed.
When you drive into here, you're kind of entering another world, far from the busy cities and things like that. And it's just so beautiful, and the sky is so blue, and the creek and everything. So it's just a real piece of paradise.
It's just very simple and flexible and peaceful and quiet, and it's a place that one can come and get perspective on one's life outside the ranch, you know, in the real world, in their daily lives, so to speak. It puts things in perspective.
The timeless quality you find on a dude ranch, as well as the old-time traditions, family atmosphere, and rustic living, keep dude families coming back year after year, generation after generation.
We have one couple. This will be their 44th year. We've got lots of people that have been here 20 years, 25 years. We've got 2 and 3 generations coming together. We've got one family of 4 generations coming together.
We've had up to 5 generations of different families here. And it's amazing how many people will come as a child, and then in about 10 or 15 years, once they've married and have their families, bring their families back.
What makes them come back is the constancy of it. I think that in this world, particularly today with things changing constantly, this is the one place that they know that they can come back to that's been the same since they were little tiny children, even if they've been coming for 2 and 3 generations. It is sort of like one big family. They come, they know the places that they've been as little children, they've taken their own children and sometimes their grandchildren there. They have that feeling about the people that work on the ranch, because it's like being in your own home. And you've got 90, 95 people who are all sitting in your living room instead of just 4 or 5.
After a week or 2 of exhilarating outdoor activities, peace and quiet, and relaxation, dudes have a hard time leaving. For adults and children alike, the day they have to head back home is an emotional time.
Well, when they come to say goodbye, they'll have tears in their eyes, and you have tears in your eyes. One year we had a family that they were getting ready to leave. They were all packed, and they had a plane to meet, and they were saying goodbye, and they missed their little girl that was about 7. And we hunted all over the range. And finally they went back down to their cabin, and she was under the bed. She thought if they couldn't find her that she'd be able to stay.
Oh, it's always a sad day. We always stop and cut some sagebrush and put it in a little plastic bag in the car, and then when we get home, it's got this marvelous odor for the last kind of through the winter.
As a new wave of interest in the West sweeps around the globe, many dude ranchers believe their industry is on the verge of another heyday. Most ranches are booked well in advance, a hark back to their booming business of the 1920s. As the modern world only seems to speed up, dude ranches have maintained a relaxed rhythm that dudes have come to rely on. No matter how much the world changes around them, dude ranchers are determined to preserve not only the beauty of their surroundings, but also the old-time traditions that have endeared many a dude to the Western way of life.